In this session, we're going to talk about what are the VXLAN building blocks. We are going to just comment briefly the topology, the underlay, the companion control plane, and we are going to focus on what is a VTEP and what is an NVE interface. The first building block for VXLAN is the topology. If you're deploying VXLAN within a data center, you must choose the spine and leaf design. If you are deploying VXLAN within an enterprise network, you can go for the 3-tier, 2-tier, or 1-tier design. The next building block for VXLAN is the underlay layer 3 network. Remember that your interconnections will be layer 3 interconnections. You will have IP addresses here, and you will be using an IP routing protocol in order to advertise these interconnections and most importantly, the loopback IP address of each device. Another building block that we need in order to have VXLAN running is the overlay control plane. Remember that VXLAN cannot work alone. It needs a companion control plane protocol. We are going to spend more time talking about control plane protocols in another session. Just remember that you can go for EVPN for the multi-vendor option or for Cisco Lisp. Probably the most important device within a VXLAN deployment are VTEPs. VTEPs stands for VXLAN Tunnel Endpoints. Remember that you are going to connect your end devices to layer 3 switches. These layer 3 switches to which you are connecting your end devices will become your VTEPs. They will play the role of VTEPs. First of all, VTEPs must be identified by a unique IP address within your layer 3 network. So you can use a loopback in order to identify your VTEP. Some design guides tell you that you should use a different loopback for managing the device than the one that you're going to use to identify it as a VTEP, but you can actually use the same loopback interface in order to manage the device and in order to identify it as a VTEP. That is up to you. And then we are going to talk about what is the actual activity of a VTEP. VTEPs can encapsulate frames into layer 3 packets, or they can de-encapsulate frames coming into layer 3 packets into single frame. So if this VTEP here receives a frame, it is going to encapsulate it within a layer 3 packet. It is going to send it to a destination VTEP. This other VTEP here is going to receive this packet, and it is going to de-encapsulate the layer 2 frame in order to deliver it to the destination device. Finally, you must carefully see or check your device's features in order to know whether they can become VTEPs or not. Some layer 3 switches out there cannot handle VXLAN. So let's put some examples here. So if you're deploying your data center, you could use Cisco 9000's Nexus, or if for the enterprise you can use Cisco Catalyst 9000's, or you can go for a free option. For instance, you could use the Open vSwitch in order to become a VTEP. Now, in order to turn your device into a VTEP, you need to configure one network virtual edge interface. So once you configure that, your device becomes a VTEP, and it can encapsulate and de-encapsulate traffic. And you can configure several things here. For instance, you can select a particular loopback whose IP address will be the VTEP ID for this device. You can also map here what is going to be the multicast, layer 3 multicast group that is going to handle the bump traffic for this particular, or for a particular VNID. And then you can configure some other options. So for instance, you can declare here that you're going to use multi-protocol BGP with EVPN as the control plane, as the companion control plane for VXLAN, and many other features. This is a summary of what we saw in this session. Building blocks for VXLAN. First of all, select your topology. You can go for an spine and leaf topology for data centers, or you can go for traditional 3-tier, 2-tier, or 1-tier topologies for an enterprise deployment. Remember that you need a layer 3 underlay protocol up and running. you need a companion control plane that can be multi-protocol BGP with EVPN if you go for a multi-vendor option, or you can go for a Cisco modified lease version for the Cisco Fabric solution. Remember that the most important part of a VXLAN deployment are VTEPs that are going to encapsulate, and the encapsulate traffic, they must have a unique IP address to identify them. And for Cisco, you can use, for instance, Nexus 9000 for the data center deployment, or Catalyst 9000 for an enterprise deployment, or you can go for free version if you go for an open virtual switch option. In order to turn your device into a VTEP, you need an NVE interface where you can configure what is going to be your ID for your VTEP, that is usually a loopback IP address, or you can map your VNIDs to a multicast group in order to handle bomb traffic. You can also select here whether you're going to use multi-protocol BGP with EVPN as your control plane protocol. That's it.